Tutorial on how to do custom gauge textures, how to do custom textures, modeling your own gauges for your lift for speed. So you'll probably have your own car or vehicle that you're working on. But what I'm going to do is hop into the vehicle editor. I'm going to do a new vehicle. We're going to do car, 4 wheels, whatever. It'll look something like this. And I'm just going to press E for edit. And so, you know, you would have your whole car built here and everything. You'd go, okay, I want a custom gauge cluster, or if you were doing, you know, your own set of gauges or a virtual gauge or something. So I'm going to do a new subobject. I'm going to say gauges. I'm going to move it up here just to get an idea of where it would be. And quickly, I'm just going to build it so you can work through this with me. I'm just going to do a new point. I'm going to create a circle. We're going to do, let's say 16. Bring it a bit. I'm extruding all these points now. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this forward. Extrude again. Hold control. You can scale this up. Extrude again. I'm going to flip this because it's doing the wrong side. We're going to... yeah, I'll bring these back. We'll do something simple little circle gauges. And now I'm going to grab all these, extrude these into average, into the center. So there we go. We have a gauge. Change the groupings up. I will just make these all separate groupings, right? So you get your hard edges. Down here, duplicate. We'll say this is the outside. Or, you know, this is just, we'll make a bunch of gauges. So you can make this be specific to the gauge or just a general texture, you know, gauge plastic. So this will be copied to everything. I'm going to make this black. Just not quite full black, right? Full black gets a little too black. It doesn't look very good. So now I'll control shift click this face. This is our gauge face. I'm going to duplicate again. I'm going to call this speedo. So this will be our speedometer. I'm going to press A. I'm going to duplicate all these. Move this over. I'm going to shift click this, duplicate again. This will be our tachometer. And you can go on and on. You can do a water temp and oil temp and clocks and all that. But we're just going to do 2. I'm actually going to make these centered. I'm just going to make sure these are... see, right now we have a bit of a concave going on. I want these to be flat. So I'm just going to grab those, right click one of these points, and you can control click. This will slide. You can scale from that point, from both of these points here, right? So from my right view, make sure I grab all these, right click that. I'm going to right click that arrow. You can scale horizontally from the green point. I'm going to go 0. So now they're perfectly in line with that point from all the other points. So these are both flat now. And perfect. We got 2 gauges here. These would be cool on like a bike or something. And we need to map these gauges. So first things first, what are you going to want to do? You have your gauges set. They got white faces. You have your surround, any other details you want to add to these gauges. I'm going to add a new page. So go into your page tab, add a new page, S_clock. So this won't be anywhere. You just have to type this in, click enter, and you'll get this screen. So nothing will come up. That's fine. I'm going to show you what to do now to get this to work. So for our cutout, I'm going to add a new cutout. I'm going to go speedo, right? Duplicate. I want this to be the tacho. So we can say tachometer. We could say speedometer. I'm going to click no texture, map it to my clock, map this one to my clock. And now in mapping, we're going to go speedo. And we're going to go back. I'm going to take away the rotation down here. Make sure we're facing the right way. So this arrow here, we're facing towards that gauge. And all I'm going to do is make this small enough. Fit to this cutout. Right, so just fit that in the box. So 0.087. We'll say is pretty close. I can move that to the center. So there we go. Perfect circle, perfect square. We can, if we copy mapping, we can then paste that mapping for the other one. And I'm just going to negative. That's perfectly mirrored. So this will be the opposite side. So there we go. We have two mappings. You've now mapped. This is perfectly mapped this square into those triangles. Perfectly mapped this square into those triangles. And now what you're going to want to do, we're going to want to press escape and go back out to here. So you can see we're back out in the main menu of this editor space. We're going to go textures. We have no clocks. So we want to right click that. We want to pick what clocks we want to use for our gauges. So you have a few options. S_clock is the default. So if you click edit, you'll see it's a black background, white faces. We go back again, right click it again. We can go white, which you'll see is the invert. So that flips that. You'll have the black gauges with a white background. We can go back again. We can do formula. So formula is a little different. It has this sweeping tachometer style digital readout for speed, gear indicator, which can be done on the other clocks as well. These readouts are a little different. It's just a different style of gauges. We can go back. We can do F1. So then these last three are not editable. You can't change anything on these. This is for the like formula cars you'll see in game. So that's all fixed. You can't change these. So if you want to use these, you have a few options. You can do the F3. It's in blue instead, or you can do the FBM, which I think is a little more basic. We are going to do the default. We want S_clock, black background. We want white gauges. It has every readout that we need here. So while you're in here, you have a lot of options, especially with the new update. We can start here. So we're going to do speed on tachometer. But obviously you can see for everything else, you have a lot of other options for angling stuff, you know, how far you want that clock to go, how big you want it to be. So you can get into it, but we'll just go over here. I'm going to show you everything with the speedo and the tacho. But everything else is basically up to you to experiment with, and it's a lot of the same stuff. It's not hard to learn. So for our speedometer up here in the top right, we're going to come over here, analog speedo on and off. So if you click off, you can have it turned off. If you don't want it on your page, taking up too much space, gives you more room for other things. We want it on. We want to use that. We want the circle speedometer to fit our circle gauge. Max, you can do auto. So it kind of bases itself off of how powerful your engine is, how light your car is, you know, what you'll roughly hit for a top speed. But you can do manual. So if you're looking to replicate a car in real life, or you want to set a gauge to a specific number and have the needle go past it or something cool like that. But we can set, you know, we can do 200 kilometers an hour is the max. Or you'll see we keep adding. You can go up to 240, and then you'll get the number to pop up. So you can go up pretty high if you want to have your spacing right. You can kind of tighten everything up or base this off of something that you want to copy, replicate in real life. So we'll do custom. We'll do 200 or something just to be random. Unit, you can have what unit's in, kilometers per hour. You can have that above, below the needle, have a gap. And with the gap, you can choose how far out you want that to be. Right? Same with below and same with above. You can choose where you want that to be. You can have that up higher or lower. So we'll do, just to get a general idea, we'll do gap. We'll put the gap over here, put it in the corner. That'd be cool. And coming down, this is where you can edit now all the features of this gauge. So this gauge in game, right now it's stationary, but in game, this will be interactive. So when you rev the engine or you move the car, this will start to go up. So this is, you know, static currently, but this will let you move. So you can choose what features you want to have shown on your gauge. So if you want to take away the pivot point, you can take away the numbers, you can take away the marks. So you can have a needle that moves in space of nothing. It might just be a black background with a needle that moves. So if you want to add your own texture, you can have your own numbers and own stuff in behind this and make your own skin map pretty much. So we're going to do that later. So we'll keep the numbers on the pivot point. I'm going to make it go above and then long. So if you take away above, it can be a long needle through the pivot point, or you can go a long needle above. This is based off of a lot of real life vehicles, older and newer, depending on what style you're going for. You make your numbers a little smaller. There's not much adjustment to that. They just get a little tinier. It would have been nice to have something to adjust that. And you can do color. So right now it's white, but if you're using system colors, you click set your own colors. So for color here, it's lack of, I guess is what I should say, is this is your needle colors. You have the LED gear change. I can make it red. You can make this, your needles bright blue if you want to. But clicking color is taking away the color. So if you want your speedo to be just a full white needle, no color, but you want your tachometer to have, red needles and different text and all that stuff, then you can adjust that in that sort of way. So we'll keep that where it was. Backing color, we can bring that up. So you can invert this in the same way that the other options were. So it really doesn't matter what you start with. If you feel like you want to go the inverted, you've made your whole gauge cluster texture and you want it to go with the white background and the black faces, you can do that now, which makes it nice if you change your mind later, or you want to switch something up. I'm just going to go 16, bring a little more less darkness to it. So we're going to go color. I'm going to keep the red. I want to go long. It's good where it is as big as we can get it in this space. But I want to do a different turn angle. So right now it starts at this sort of 240 degrees and goes to 240. But I want it to start. I want to bring this over a bit and I want to bring this down. So that should be matching. I'm going to go 220. And there we go. And go straight across. So now this is a full sweep, kind of almost full round speedometer. I think looks cool. And we'll move down. So that's good for that. We'll leave it at that. We'll move down to the tachometer. So now on this left side, we're dealing with this. We can turn it off if we want. We're going to leave it on. We want a tachometer. We're trying to make this for the left side. So we have 2-step or 5-step. So that's just your inner ticks. For a little more detail, it all really depends on style. This is just visual for depending on what car you're trying to build and what you're going for. I like the 5-step, a little more detail, looks really clean. Again, we can do the multiplying factor of your RPM. So 1 for 1,000, 2 for 2,000, but you can go by times 100. So you go 5, 10, so 10 per 1,000, then you're going to go 2,000. So you're getting the individual steps. If that's what you're going for, if you go with that by 100, then you can go your gap to tens. So this is more of a 0, 10, 20, 30. Same idea. If you go by 1,000, then you move your gap up to 2. Then right, it's going to be 0, skip 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. So we're going to go normal. I'm not going to go do anything fancy with that. I'm just going to go from 0. We're doing a 9,000 RPM red line. But we can change that. We can adjust that going down again. You go manual. So 10,000. Sorry, is the max on the gauge. But for your engine, this is where you'll stop is 9. But if you want to keep that at your 9, but you want the actual gauge to show more, you could have it all the way up to let's say 20,000 RPM. Now it drops me back down. It's getting very tight in there. But right, you would be able to rev up till 9 and show to 20, but you can't actually continue to rev that far. So it's just a visual thing. That would be kind of funny to have. But if you want to do even some vehicles, I've done a stack cluster. You can do no red line. So you show you continue all this being white up till 9 is your max, and that would be it. It doesn't show an extra red line area if you're going for like a custom gauge or something that's aftermarket. Maybe it may not have an OEM set of red line area. So we'll go, just to make it funny, we can go, we'll say 1100. The unit again times 1,000. So if you change that to 100, it says times 100. We're going to do the below, and I'll leave it there. We have a gear indicator, so I'll just leave it below. Yeah. And same idea. This is just the same thing. Repeat it. You can take away the color. Long, we're going to go above. I'm going to do kind of a matching set of gauge cluster here. Small, we'll make it small just to keep the space less crowded. And what we'll do, same idea. So you can copy 220, 260. So if you do the exact same thing, these gauges will match. So if you wanted a same style of gauge for all these gauges, then you could do, start angle 220. So say for my fuel gauge here, 220, and we're going to 260. Then you could just quickly match all your gauges to be the same style of, circular or what they were for. If I want to go back, this is a 120 to 60 degrees. So just really quickly, what they're already set to is I can go back super easily, right? If you're matching gauges, you just have to keep your starting angle and your turn angle the same. So that looks good. We have a LED gear indicator. I'm just going to move that over a little bit. And the size is a little big, so width doesn't do anything, but your height will. So you can just mess with that. I'll keep it in there. We'll put it there. Maybe we'll put it a center here at the bottom. I think would be cool. Right at negative 0.50. So that's at the same X as my tachometer. So I know that's right down the middle. We're gonna make the size really small, and I'm just going to move it down. So it's right there in the middle. That looks cool. You have a multi-function display. So if you made something else that's mapped to be a little square or something on the side, you can have something that tells you lap times, what gear you're in, all that fun stuff. So we can change the height of that. That width works. When you're dealing with the box, you can make it wider and changing your height and all that. Right, so I can bring that up. Text color, you can make the box whatever color you want. Scaling that, right? So you can move that around. So we'll put that in there just if we need it. And so that's basically it. So everything else then comes from that. So it's a lot of stuff, if you're doing anything with gauges, again, the fuel gauge, water temperature, time, you can turn that on and off. You can turn, the time clock if you don't want that on there. A lot of cars don't have the time clock. You can turn that off. For oil temperature, you can turn that on. You can turn on your oil pressure gauges. You can experiment and really dial in what you want to do for your vehicle. But the other thing here, on the right, we have the lights. So these are your dash lights. These are your handbrake lights. You can see up here when I change the icon, you can say for the handbrake. This lets you know if your handbrake is still on, right in the gauge. You could do a default, just a red light. So these don't really describe much, but it's a little more vintage. It's a little more race car kind of look that you've just wired in some LEDs that correspond to what something is wrong, or you maybe forgot to put the handbrake down or something. But in a vehicle, in a gauge cluster that's a little more factory, you could put the handbrake icon. For shifting up, this is a custom thing. So this is not usually in factory vehicles, maybe some a little newer. So you can have just a yellow, orange light, or you can do shift up. It'll actually have a little shift up icon. If I move that there, you can see. Or sorry, actually, I was looking at this. It's here in the cluster actually, so that'd be good. So I'm gonna leave these circles. We'll see what we got. We got oil pressure right here in the middle. So that's our 3 lights here. We have the battery light here in the middle. So if you want it to map that, we don't really want that, but I can put it maybe as a third, right, to 50. So that's right in line. You see it's all lined up nice and even, and I'm going to put it right there like a stack. Might be kind of cool. Looks cool. So if your battery dies, which is ignition, when the engine shuts off, that should come up. Let us know. And low fuel light, that might be nice. So your fuel light is in orange, right, as it usually is. You can have that off if you don't want to. Click to enable. A lot of stuff. Neutral light If you're in neutral, you can enable that. And engine check engine light, you can click to enable, right? So that will bring these in. We find engine, I can turn it off again, depending on what you have. So if I had included some high beams lights mapped into my vehicle, if I turn on traction control, pit limiter, ABS, if I turn those things on, we'll get the option to have those lights. So I'm going to do low fuel. I may actually include that as well, because that would be beneficial to have. So I'm just going -40, so these are 10 over from each other, and 75. See, my battery is also 75, so everything is nice and lined up. I'll put that up there. That's a good thing to have if this is a race car or something, if I want to model it. So you can open it up. Dash lights, you can have them set to off. So this is what they'll look like when they're off. If you can see that, the lights are actually dark. So per default, when you're driving around, if none of your lights are on, it will look like this. But when they do flash on, this is the color you'll see. That's what they'll look like when one of these will turn on while you're driving or if something happens. And mainly then what you want to do, I think that looks good. I like the look of that. I'm going to click save. We're going to name it test car. There we go. So this is saved. This is already on the car. It's good to save it just in case you lose it. And as another example, if I load the spec B, we can load into that. You'll see that there's nothing shown here as well. But if we go back, if I save this, I save my test car. We'll say it's test car. If I load my spec B, if I go to, loading the spec B, if I go to edit. So this is a custom texture page that if you want to do a specific background, so you can see now I'm using the needles from Live for Speed, right? You can see I'm changing the color. That is the Live for Speed default needles and stuff that I want to move. But behind it is a custom backing texture. Easy to implement, same way you do any other texturing. So if we go back here, you have all the gauges and stuff, but we go back, I press edit. In your main object, if you go to page, you'll see dash. So this is the texture. This is the backing texture with nothing on it. You see there's no needles, there's no numbers other than your speedometer and little things on these gauges in here. Your speedometer, the tachometer, heat, coolant temp, your fuel gauge. So what you want to do is you would bring that texture in. So you duplicate, you would right click, you go, okay, scroll through your texture, your PNG texture files in your Live for Speed editor. You would find that texture. Here it is, plus. See, it's right now, if I deleted this, and right now it'd be fixed, right? So this isn't mapped to anything, but it'd be a fixed texture. So you can have, a few options here when you click your type, right? You have your skin. Here's my skin texture. It's showing nothing right now, but that's your skin for your car. Fixed is the texture that you would use as a cutout that would just be in here. But if you go in here now, there's dashboard backing. So if you click that, it turns green. And so it's set that page type to be for the dash. So you can't, we'll see, you might be able to actually. Let me just make sure. So you can. So this can still be used actually in your model for your main. But really this is for external. This is for outside. Because what you do there is when you set it to dash and you go back now and we go back to our clock and I click edit, this is it. This is what is shown there. And you can reload the backing texture if you've changed it. So if I went out here, I went to edit again, I go back to page, I'm in my main, I right click this and I just click something, we'll say something like the reflux plate texture. So if I go back here, I click edit. Now you can see all of our stuff is gone. I can reload that, just make sure that it says for reflux world, that is now the backing texture for your needle. So you can really put anything in there. So if you wanted to make a very specific car, which for this is the 180, an S chassis, then it's a backing texture that can be super accurate to be the car that you're trying to replicate. You just have to put the needles above it. So obviously you can see now the numbers are here, marks are here. You just hide all that. You can see now we're back. Everything looks as it should. This is already pre-made. We've already done all this, and this was done by whoever made this original model in this gauge cluster. So this wasn't my work, but it's done really well for a stock gauge cluster in there. But what you can do is you can see now you have to match that up to be your kilometers an hour, 0, here's 180. So if we turn our numbers on and our marks on, you can see, I'll keep it in blue because you can see how this is at 0 and this is matched. See, it's 185, right? Is matching this arc. It's matching the numbers, right? So in game, if you're going to use your own numbers, you have to know that your speedometer is accurate. Because if you do this wrong, if I change this now to be, we'll say 250 kilometers an hour, behind the scenes, when you're going, if I'm driving in my car and I'm going what I think, if I think I'm going 60, I'm actually going 80. Your scaling is wrong. So when you think in game now, if I turn all this off again, I'm going, 120. Well, actually, I'm going 160. So your scaling is all messed up. So you can keep your marks on, bring this down until it matches, right? So we're at pretty close. 185, actually, what it was set to is a better accurate measurement of this scale. So we'll leave it there. You turn your marks off, turn your numbers off, and now you have a functioning tachometer that it's not liver speed based. You can make your own custom look, custom text, fonts, scaling. These are a lot more ticks in between than if we were to do our own marks. You can see that liver speed only gets you only so many marks in between. That if that's not as accurate as what you want to do, then you can make your own. So knowing all that, we'll go back to our test car, which has nothing. And this is really the bread and butter here now. We'll go into our clocks again. Just make sure we will turn on we will load. Actually, sir, we'll go back to load test car. We wanted our normal texture here. And we'll go back to edit. We'll go back into our gauges. And now we'll be able to actually map them. So we have our page. When we go to S_clock, we have our texture clock here now that shows up. So if you did clocks, it's gone. There is no clock texture. There is no texture to click. You just click OK, and the game knows that's what you're looking for. So you go to your cutout, we go to speedometer. Now what we want to do is that's our cutout. So we want to cut out our speedometer. So we go up here. We're going to go over here, and we're going to try to get that right in the middle. Right, it's a 128, so you want 64. Right, you can see our size. I'll blow this up for you guys. So see, size 64 is halfway, perfectly halfway. We're going to go 64 by 64, as if this was the full circle. If you don't want to have anything else included in your model here, then you can scale this up, right? But we want the full size. So now you have that cut out. We're going to do the same thing for the tachometer.
We're going to grab the corner here pretty quick. We're going to 64 by 64.
And that looks good. And then we're going to map. So we've already mapped these, remember, from the beginning. So we're going to have speedo. We're going to click this. We have speedo to speedo. We have tacho to tachometer. And you can see already pretty much dead on. Did not take any finagling. We got everything pretty even, cut and dry, good numbers, half and half, right? 64 by 64 fits our perfect square that we did this cutout. So if we did our cutouts again, and you can see if you didn't do a perfect square and you want to actually cut that up to what it was, then now your perfect square is a 64 by 54. So your perfect cutout for your square over here on your gauge is stretching. You're stretching that. You're taking whatever this was here and stretching this cutout to be, see, it's the cutout. If you can get a good look at that, you can see that this selection is what you selected over here for your cutout. It's right there, right from 1 to 10. You can see the 1 and 10 just cut out. So if we go back and we go, no, we want to do the whole nice and even. It's a perfect square. Then our cutout, which is also a perfect square, fits perfectly. There you go. Now you have a working clusters that this would be on your car or on your bike or something. You have all your lights mapped and everything. So I'm just going to move this up. You can then rotate them right a little bit or something. You could have them angled. I'm going to put them somewhere where we can see them. I'll save test car again. We're going to do test mod, test car. Okay, so when you load up your liver speed, you can go single player. We can go to the garage. I'm going to go to my mods. Loading our list of mods. We'll go to our test mods. We see test car up here. We can see our gauge cluster. We see our flat car we've made. We'll load in, we'll see, we'll do a race. Here's a drag race, here we go. You can see our gauges work. Put her in gear. And it's not very fast, but you can see our tachometer's working. We'll zoom in here. We can see where our speedometer's accurate. We can press our handbrake, right? Handbrake light works. If I turn the car off, all right. See, we're getting the battery. We have our fuel light and everything here, but that all works, right? So you'll have your gauges are mapped. You can see them. They're the exact same. Let's see, we're going, right? We're right around 7,000 RPMs, and we're right around 7,000 RPMs. This is 1-to-1, exactly what you've mapped. So same way, I'll give the other example. We'll go back here. We'll go to browse here. We'll go to my mods. We'll go to the spec B. And if we go out, you can see, zoom back out, you'll see those exact same gauges. You see all our gauges are mapped, right? So this is not a liver speed gauge, right? None of these are liver speed gauges, but it's using the needles to show accuracy to the game, right? So we can have it where our car revs past the red line. If a car has been modified or something, you're using a stock gauge cluster, then it's cool that, oh, now it revs to 9,000. So that stock red line, you can have the ability to show that it's revving past that. We have a oil pressure gauge here that we made. That revs with the tachometer, shows that we're getting good oil pressure. And then we have our turbo. So this is our boost gauge up here. And you can see when the turbo kicks in, it shows an accurate amount of how much boost we're running. Go into first. Right. So you can see we have our speedometer that we made accurate. So now when we're going 100, right, we should be going close to 100. If I get out of here, this is the real gauges for liver speed. We're going pretty close to 100. So that's 100. That's 100. So then using your custom gauges, you won't have a problem with not sure of how fast you're actually going, inaccuracies with your fuel gauge and stuff like that, which can be a problem if you're trying to race these cars, or if you're in a server and you're trying to drive around, all of a sudden you run out of fuel. Can be a problem, or if you're going for a build that maybe you want it to be a little ratty, that the fuel gauge doesn't quite work. Maybe that's something you want to do. It's all it gives you a lot of options to build the car you want to build. So that's a quick and easy tutorial just for you guys to kind of get an idea of what you need to do when you're mapping your gauges. A lot of people were asking for a kind of a little tutorial, or how does that system work? And it's a little odd that you map them. You have to back out to the main menu there, do your editing in your texture map area, and then go back in to map your actual gauges. But now that you understand it, it's a blast. So it gives you lots of options, like I said. So cool. Shoot me any messages if you have any questions. I'd be glad to see your builds too and help out. So all right, thanks for watching, guys.